Today I'm going to teach you on how to create cloud function in GCP using the serverless framework. So the first thing you need to do is you need to install npm and node. After you've done that, you need to run this command to install serverless. If you're running it in a Windows machine, if it's Linux, then you need to install the Linux equivalent of that. After that, you need to create a service account in GCP and you need to download the credentials file. That credentials file will be used in your serverless.yml file. So we will create a serverless.yml file using the default template that's given by serverless. After that, once we've downloaded it, we need to change two parameters, the project and the credentials. So the project will be the one in which your cloud function will reside in, and the credentials will contain the path to the JSON file that you've created using your service account. After that, you just need to run an npm install and deploy it using SLS deploy. And to invoke that function, you just need to run the serverless invoke command. So let's start. So I'm in my command prompt. So the first thing I will do is I'll check if serverless is deployed. So I've already deployed serverless, so we can just skip that. After that, the second step is to create the service account. So for that, you need to go to the GCP console, go to your IAM and go to your service accounts. Here you need to create a service account. So I'll just give this an appropriate name. And you need to specify the role. So since this is a demo account, what I will do is I'll just give the owner access for the entire project. If you're running it in a production environment, just make sure to give roles that are required to create the cloud function and nothing more than that. After that, just click on continue and just click on done. After you've created your service account, you just need to click on this icon and click on create keys and just click on the create button. So what you get is the downloaded file. So this downloaded file contains all the credentials, and make sure that you store it in the appropriate path. The serverless.yml file will basically contain a path to this file to validate the credentials. So I have already created a credentials file before, and I have stored it in this particular path. So I'll just show this to you once more. Yep. So after this, let's just run the default serverless command to create a template. So I'll just copy this. So it has created all the scaffolding that is required to create our first GCP cloud function. So if we go through the files that have been created, we can see that there's an index.js file, a package.js file, and a serverless.yml file. Let's just go through all these files. So the index.js file just contains a normal JavaScript function with a response of hello world, and the name of this particular function is http. So this particular name will be used in the YAML file to point to this particular function. So if you look at the YAML file, we can see that the project and the credential is set to default, so we need to change these two parameters. And so the function is, the name of the function that will be created is first, and the handler is the HTTP. So basically this is basically the path, this is the starting point to that particular JavaScript function that you just saw. So what we'll do here is we'll just change this credentials and the project name. So to get the project name, I'll go back to my GCP console. I'll click on this button, I'll just copy this. And I'll just paste it here. Similarly, the credentials file, I'll just copy this. And I'll just paste it here. I think we are good to go. So let's just deploy this. But before we do that, we just need to deploy all the dependencies. So for that, we'll just do an npm install. So our dependencies have been installed. Now to deploy the serverless function, we'll just do an SLS deploy. This might take a few minutes. So you can see that the cloud function has been deployed. Now to execute this particular function, we can just run this command, serverless invoke, and the name of the function. So let me just copy this and let's see. And you can see that we've got the output of hello world. Now let's go back to our console and let's see what has happened there. So if we go back to the console and if we go to the cloud functions, so you can see that we have just created this particular cloud function. So if I just click on this, so this was a service account. So this is basically the same service account that we had created while we created the service account. So this looks fine. This was the same JavaScript that we had in our index.js file. So that is how you actually create a cloud function using serverless. If you want to go more in depth, then you can also look at the deployment manager portion. So basically serverless, what it does in the background, it just creates a deployment manager script which executes, and that is the actual process that actually creates the cloud function. So this was basically the deployment manager script that executed. So if you just click on this, you can actually view the config and see what actually got created. So you can actually see that there were two resources that got created. This is the bucket, and this is basically the function that got created. So you can actually go through this config file and see actually what are all the resources that got created while the SLS deploy happened. That's it for this particular tutorial. If you have any doubts, you can just get in touch with me. Thank you.